We are at Ugunja Township Primary Polling Station. And of course, we've been keeping tabs with what is happening here in Ugunja constituency, where it is expected that 60,114 registered voters are expected to come out and cast their vote. And what I can assure you is that a very minimal number of that have actually turned up to cast their vote. We've seen in very few polling stations where you can actually say that indeed people have actually turned up to cast their vote. But most of the polling stations portray the picture that my colleague will just show you, my colleague Christine, if she can actually just pan around, you'll see. In fact, this is just one of the station that the three stations that is actually here at Ugunja polling station, and we are told that the total number of registered voters in that polling station is actually 600. And as we speak right now, they have not even number of registered voters that have actually come to cast their vote. They are not beyond 100 people. That of course speaks to the concerns that there have been here, not just here in Ugunja, but of course not just here in Ugunja Township polling station, but also across the constituency, where we have actually seen that most of the polling stations that have actually gone to, we found that most of the officers actually manning those polling stations are just sitting idle and not doing very little in terms of taking care of whoever is supposed to actually be coming. And the thing is that the leaders who've actually talked of, the leaders who've actually cast their vote, have actually called on the registered voters in this constituency to ensure that they actually come out and cast their vote. The voters have painstakingly coming in slowly, and at times you wonder if indeed you will get to the halfway mark. But of course, that is quite familiar with by-elections in the country, where very few people turn out to cast their vote. And of course, this is advised by the fact that most of them decide to engage in other activities in the morning before eventually probably coming out and casting their vote. We spoke to the CS of Energy earlier on, and he said that he's very happy with how the elections have actually been conducted so far in Ugunja constituency. He said he urged the locals to remain peaceful, but also wants them to come out in large numbers and actually participate in this by-election. The similar sentiments were also echoed by the ODM candidate Moses Omondi, who cast his vote at Ligega, Sirori primary polling station in Ligega. He too came out and of course called on the locals to actually turn out and cast their vote. Similar sentiments were also echoed by the IBC Vice Chair Fahima Arafat, who was here to inspect the ongoing by-election, and indeed she raised a concern about the voter turnout. However, she was hopeful that indeed as the day progresses on, that indeed locals will actually turn up and cast their vote. We've gone to a number of polling stations, about 15 or 20 polling stations out of the 116 total polling stations in this constituency, and we can report that the picture is quite familiar. The picture is cutting across, where very few people are actually turning up to cast their vote. But the good thing, or the thing is that most of the leaders or people who are actually involved with the by-election are actually calling on the locals to ensure that at the end of the day they actually turn out to ensure that they participate in their constitutional right, which is selecting or electing the person who will actually be their next representative in the National Assembly. So we'll be keeping a keen eye on exactly what will be happening here in Ugunja, and of course you can trust us to ensure that indeed we give you final details of exactly what will be happening here in Ugunja constituency. I just want to report that indeed we've not encountered situations where there's been delay in terms of opening of polling stations. We've also not encountered situations where there's been insecurity concerns, and we've also not encountered situations where there's been outrage or concerns about voter malpractices. Things here have been a bit smooth, a bit peaceful as compared to what is happening in other parts of the country. However, we will continue keeping a keen eye on it, so that then if there's anything worth reporting, of course,